Hi Sherry, my name is Danny Beesley, and I am applying for the program manager position at the Fab Foundation. I wanted to do something that was a bit more impactful rather than a attachment to an email. So I decided to make this video and hope that it will serve the purpose of helping you to get to know me a little bit better, um, but also translating my experiences much better than a piece of paper can. Um, I am a Fab Lab enthusiast, and I have been for at least 2 to 3 years now. I've been actively working in educational environments here in the San Francisco Bay Area, more specifically in Oakland, in promoting the concept of Fab Labs. Um, I'm doing a kind of a massive level of politicking and introduction education for decision makers, from the local school board to city council members, and also to a variety of teachers, educators, principals, and the presidents of the college and chancellors and folks like that. But my politicking has led somewhere, and this last year I have been working on a Fab Lab at a high school, and we're just about together now, and it will be included in curriculum this coming school year, which starts next week for us here. And I'll be mentoring them as well, trying to help them get that off the ground, and then being able to step away and hope it will be self-sustaining. But I've also been working on developing a Fab Lab at the local community college, Laney College in Oakland as well. I have been very active in politicking and working on that for about 2 years, because it takes quite a while to get these organizations to adapt and to change. But we're just now getting to a level of success, and we're awaiting our initial funding to be allocated next week, which will then allow us to kind of break ground on the space and begin to tool it up and build it out, and then work on curriculum and many other things. And of course, I think we'll be reaching out to the Fab Foundation to make sure that those Fab Labs are connected. But I just wanted to now give you a little bit of my professional background, so you kind of know where I'm coming from. I am a carpenter by trade. That's what I started off doing in life first, at least. Roughly when I was about 10 years old, my dad would take me out every summer to go help him build houses. He was a general contractor. And though it was very painful waking up at 4 or 5 in the morning during my summers, it taught me so many valuable skills. And by the time I had graduated high school, I realized that I was a journeyman carpenter. A skill set that not too many people can say at 18. But I stuck with kind of the construction carpentry industry for probably another 5 to 8 years. And then at that point, I had, somewhere along those lines, I'd really gotten interested in green building, and wanted to kind of upskill myself into kind of the next level of my industry. And so I did an extensive amount of self-study on green building, because there wasn't really any structured environments that existed at that time that were teaching these concepts in a educational environment. And then ultimately ended up working for a startup company in Redwood City, which is the northern tip of Silicon Valley. And that was a industry incubator, not industry aggregator. Sorry. But it was the first company that was really getting started, that was trying to aggregate that industry and bring together the suppliers, as well as the service providers and the education and training and other things. While I was there, I wore 1,000 different hats. I did a lot of the politicking and networking that got that business accepted by the industry, but also got it on the map. I was also in charge of, I was the director of education, and so all of the educational programming that we were doing there at the facility, I was in charge of developing the relationships, and then managing those classes as they're implemented. We very rarely were doing in-house things. It was mostly contracting with outside companies, but I was managing that process. amongst managing a myriad of other things. Being a startup, you kind of have to do lots of managing and wear hundreds of hats. As I'm sure with the Fab Foundation, you've experienced all that firsthand. But after that, I decided to kind of upskill myself one more level, and now bring in the world of technology into this. And with that, I connected up with a company that I've been consulting with for many years now, called Idea Builder, which is embracing a lot of digital fabrication techniques and bringing them into the built environment or the construction industry. So literally building buildings with these kind of same technologies and software. And so I've been directly working with them, and a lot of that has been advocacy because the company was very ahead of its time. Most of the time that we were spending is actually educating decision makers and educating the industry that new options exist out there, that there are better ways of doing things than the way that we are doing them or have traditionally done them. And so that got me into kind of the CNC side. I'm not a programmer, although at the Fab Labs, I'm responsible for setting everything up from running the electrical to building the workbenches to programming the computers to hooking up all the equipment to operating them, at least initially. So I do have a good kind of overview of the technologies and how to implement much of that. I've also spent an expensive amount of time teaching myself very high quality web researching skills that allow me to get answers pretty quickly so I can adapt and evolve. But then I've also put on the web designer, web developer hat. So I am actively a web designer. I don't do many projects a year because I'm doing other things that I'm more passionate about. But last year I completed a very large website for one of the community colleges here in the area, and that was a WordPress multi-site that had roughly about 150 individual sites underneath that with about 300 users. And I had to project manage that entire project and take very little existing information that was there and throw everything into a structure so that we can then go aggregate and then compile all of that information effectively so that people and the general public can actually navigate these websites, which sometimes those are extremely difficult to navigate, and I've had to deal with that many times. But then I also do a lot of maintenance on that same website and then other websites within the school district here. So I have a lot of experience in managing lots of data and lots of information. That's really kind of the end of my professional experience. I've got various certificates and other things that are out there, but the one thing that I don't have that is stated directly on your ask there is looking for a higher level degree. And these are things that I don't have. I have worked and contracted directly with colleges for about 5+ years now, but I've really had to actually go create the programs of which I would have taken if it had existed previously, which I spent a lot of my time doing with the schools here. So if that's something that can be overlooked, great. If it's not, then I do understand. I don't always agree with those types of sentiments that that the college education is a required thing, but I do understand that in order to get justification for hiring, sometimes that is necessary. And I just wanted to share a couple of other things in closing here. Whether this position is a fit for me or not. I think that there could be some really good overlap between the work that I do and the work that the Fab Foundation does, because I am still very active in this region and doing all my politicking and really trying to get the larger education community to adopt the concept of Fab Labs and makerspaces and hands-on education. So whether this is a good fit for me or not with this position, I think that we should be in touch and be involved in some way, because I think I could be very effective in building a West Coast stance on this to support Fab Labs in a greater way. Um, but another thing, and then I will close this thing out, I promise, is that during my time working with Idea Builder and other companies that are like that, we have instigated the creation of a new industry association, specifically about digital fabrication, and that's called the Digital Fabrication Network. And right now it's a relatively small group, but it's a very influential group that are a part of it, and a lot of the companies that are part of it, excuse me, concentrate around the field of construction, and kind of how digital fabrication techniques are implemented in the field of construction. So I'm very active in connecting up skill sets that are built in a Fab Lab, or ways that I can augment some of the education that's happening in the Fab Lab to tie directly into these bigger industries. So kind of taking people to that next level and saying here's how this can be applied to the existing industries there, or here's how you can go into the industry and begin to change these for the better, because there's better processes and machineries and equipment out there to achieve the same ends. But I think that there's probably also a connection there, like I said, whether or not I'm right for this position, but building a bridge between those, because I think taking something from the Fab Foundation, and obviously have quite a large network at this point, but taking it and then plugging it in and building the next step to the ladder, the next rung of the ladder, for people to proceed past, to grow. Anyways, so I hope that you'll consider at least chatting with me further about this opportunity, and I really look forward to your response. Thanks.